The market has kicked up since our last video earlier this week. We were trending around 80K. Today we are trending right around 84K. We got upwards of 86K on a little bit of a news pump, but we did see a sell-off. But we're hovering pretty nicely around these high 83 levels on Bitcoin as of today. And the big question is, when does the bull run resume? Because firmly, I have the opinion that this bull run is not over, and I think what we're seeing right now actually resembles previous chart patterns from previous bull runs, and we're going to talk about that in this video of when does the bull run kick back into effect, and also when is the time to start nibbling at some altcoins. I actually think that if you have a stablecoin stack, that should be probably beginning to happen at this point. We'll go over some of my favorite altcoin buys, also why gaming is ramping up for a run whenever the market turns around. And I'm going to show you the trend of why gaming usually gets hot at the absolute worst times, but some of the catalysts coming up could lead to a pump in the altcoin gaming sector whenever the market turns around. Let's go ahead and jump right into it, guys. Like the video, and of course subscribe to the channel down below for more every day and every single week here on In the Game. We have you covered from gaming, AI, meme coins, RWAs, and more across the entire market. As well, a big shout out to our sponsors here on In the Game. We have some amazing sponsors from Medieval Empires. We have CRADLE Games, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, Ledger, as well as our exchange partners. You can check out our exchange partners down below. I have been trading a ton in this market, and I would absolutely recommend to check out Blowfin. Blowfin has tons of pairs and also no KYC, easy in, easy withdrawals, always has come through, and that's obviously very important to be able to actually trust and get your money out of some of these centralized exchanges. But of course, you can trade here anywhere in the world, and that is super important. Check out Blowfin down below. This is where I'm doing all of my longs and shorts in this market. And of course, coming up with our software product here in-house with Nexus, which by the way covers the entire market. It covers, the trending tokens, on-chain metrics. We have watch lists. You can track your portfolio top to bottom across 50 plus chains. We actually have perps and on-chain equities coming up soon. No KYC, fully decentralized. You custody your funds, so you can start getting involved with Nexus down below. And our trading will also be going live here very soon. So if you want a centralized exchange, I would check out Blowfin. If you want a decentralized exchange, we have Nexus coming up right around the corner. Now let's jump into it, guys. Obviously, like I said, the market did see a little bit of an uptick earlier this week on some press conferences, as well as some rate cut type of situations. And what we're seeing right now is now kind of just trending around that 83K level. But we see here, we rose quite nicely off of this 81 level all the way up to 87 on the 19th. So 2 days ago, we have seen a little bit of a downtrend here because unfortunately in this market, even if it's good news right now, every event has turned into a sell the news event. It's quite frustrating, and it does make you wonder what is going to be that catalyst that actually catapults us into what we would consider a real risk on bull market. And honestly, I think right now people are overly bearish. Like what we've seen on the timeline recently, everyone's bearish and they think that they're smart for being bearish. And of course, from the crypto summit, I had mentioned that I think that was a big sell the news event, and it did end up being that. And, painfully, we all want the market to go up. But when is this market going to turn around? I think there's a couple of factors to keep in mind of, like in the thumbnail, when do we switch back on that button that says the bull run is resumed? Well, right now, personally, I think the bearish trade is overcrowded. Like everyone's bearish on the timeline, and they think that that's the smart play. But at this point in time, it's an overcrowded trade. Every time people are euphoric in this market, it seems to go the other way. And right now, people have been awfully bearish in the market. So let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But I agree with what Zeneca tweeted here. And, everyone's waiting for quantitative easing. So basically, easing on what's going on with the money supply and not tightening, because that does give us more of a risk on environment, and especially in a market like crypto. But wouldn't it make sense to front run that? And presumably that other people have thought of this, wouldn't it make sense to front run them too? Just saying. So I do think this is a time to start at least planting some of your stablecoin seeds into top projects and the narratives that you want exposure into. For me, I really have just narrowed down my portfolio to L1s, gaming, AI, RWA, and just a couple of meme coins that I think will come through the door and actually make a comeback at some point in time. And also the recession talks, okay? We are in massive talks about recession. And I think that when people start talking about recession, it's probably getting priced in as we speak. So I do think if you have a good altcoin buy list here or a good altcoin watch list, this could be the time to at least start nibbling, put 10 to 20% of your stable coins into the market, because some of these prices are absolutely criminally low. And as we go through some of this news, I will talk about the coins and the projects that I think are the best DCAs in this market. So let's roll through in some of these narratives, and we're going to start with gaming, of course. Because if you're paying attention in the gaming space right now, this is actually the hottest narrative by far. And, you could laugh at me in the comments and say, well, Hustle, nothing's really happening in the gaming space, right? Like, we're actually... The altcoins are down. Every altcoin's down, okay? Like, the climate that we're in right now does not provoke positive price action on gaming. But at the same time, we are seeing the attention shift in gaming's favor like crazy at this point in time. And it is interesting. I just want to, before we even go into some of the news and what's happening in the gaming market, gaming got hot, and I'm going to point out these chart patterns. Every single time that gaming gets hot, it is in areas right here, from April 2021 to July 2021. That's when Axie Infinity initially took off. Well, that is in a downtrend of the market, right? People really flocked into on-chain games that could make you money while the market was going down. And then here, about November 2021, this was the height of DeFi Kingdoms. DeFi Kingdoms was absolutely rocketing at this point in time. The Jewel token was $20. And then from here downward, all the way up to April, so all the way down to here, we saw a trend that gaming was hot from about December 2021 and right at the end of the 2021 cycle at about 67K, all the way down here to where, the Ponzi of 𝗪𝗏𝗪 actually ended, which was about April of 2022. So there was a 4-month time period where the market was in just a pure downtrend, but on-chain games like Pegaxi and 𝗪𝗏𝗪 were extremely hot at that point in time. And then, of course, what we're seeing right now is on-chain games are getting very hot at this point in time while the market is dipping. So GameFi, the financialized side of gaming, is hot at every single point of the market where we see these big pullbacks in a bullish climate, right? We are seeing an overall, what I would consider a bull market kind of forming around us. And we've been in one, but I think we're in a bull market pullback similar to that one we just looked at here in 2021. But gaming always gets hot at this point in time. We have On-Chain Heroes, which is basically a Ponzi GameFi game, which has been the #1 application on Abstract. We see stuff like yesterday with DeFi Dungeons, and we'll talk about that here in just a second, but just read between the lines right now and see when the market's up or down, people are still playing these games. The meme coin casino might take over the attention span whenever the market's up, but right now is a great time to be looking across the board what gaming ecosystems you want to plant seeds into. We see Off the Grid with 234,000 active wallets yesterday, 1.57 million incoming transactions, and the #1 altcoin that I would be DCAing from a top of the line perspective right now is Avalanche. Avalanche has everything going for it. They have Off the Grid, MapleStory. Also, if we just look in between the lines here, beyond gaming, BlackRock is building with Avalanche, and their AUM just reached $50 million. So we're seeing a lot of adoption over here on Avalanche. And you might be thinking, well, this isn't an on-chain game. It is an on-chain game. It's in testnet right now, and we've actually seen just over the last couple of days an off-the-grid Pro Pack sold for 3.5K over the counter, and then we see here an off-the-grid player recently sold 2 in-game items here, the Kite Legacy and the Kestrel Legacy, for $400. These are basically CSGO skins, but fully on-chain. We also see games and ecosystems underneath Immutable, which is Raven Quest, with 33,000 active wallets over the course of the last 7 days. This is basically the closest thing we have seen to a RuneScape on-chain, and they have been absolutely crushing it, which is just showing you right now in this market, gaming is thriving. We go look at another ecosystem here with Infinigods, a record amount of in-game spend in Thor's Banquet, the most recent 3-day live ops event. There was 1,834,000 sunk into the web store on in-game items, and that is in total God token spend. And then yesterday, the big fiasco on the timeline, we saw DeFi Dungeons, which is basically kind of like Solana's version. If I have to consider my description of it, it's Solana's version of DeFi Kingdoms in a way. It's going to be a GameFi yield farming type of game that bases itself off DeFi. And these games do very well, but it shows you the attention. People think that gaming and crypto gaming, the narrative is dead. But there's numbers like this, but there's no financial side of it, right? We don't see people making crazy money yet on Off the Grid or Raven Quest or MapleStory, because they're not fully on chain yet. But at this point in time, in markets like this, people want escapes, which is showing you why the market does well in GameFi, in the actual financial side, in a market like this. Because the market's going down, people want to resort to be able to try to make some yield or make some money. And we looked yesterday, DeFi Dungeons. It had a $3 million cap on their fundraise, and it was 43 times oversubscribed. It is an on-chain game on Solana, like I mentioned, kind of like DeFi Kingdoms. There was $130 million committed into this pre-sale. Absolutely crazy demand, and it does beg the question, like, on-chain games, while the market is in this type of a climate, are absolutely the play. We saw On-Chain Heroes play out, DeFi Dungeons play out. Of course, with that amount of fundraise, people didn't get too many tokens, but I am excited to see that full ecosystem go live and just see what happens. But this all leads me to believe, we have real, and I'm going to be just quite frank here. We have real products, okay, with Off the Grid, Raven Quest, MapleStory. There's tons of games out there that are Web3 games, not necessarily fully on-chain degen style games, like some of these DeFi Dungeons or what we're about to talk about here in just a second. I think that it's important to note, these are the longer term plays that are going to catapult the overall industry forward. So to treat them like it has to happen today or tomorrow or next week is unfair. These are AAA products like Off the Grid that need time to develop. And I think that when this goes fully on chain, we will see a big spark in gaming altcoins. And because Off the Grid is operating on Avalanche, this is why I want a piece of the Avalanche ecosystem, of course. And just moving on down the line here, when we look at what could be another opportunity around the corner, right? We see DeFi Dungeons. I think participating in DeFi Dungeons, if you get in early, even if you didn't get a part of the token launch, I think that could be a really good play because it's going to have DeFi mechanics. You could be able to make some money there. But there's another on-chain game going live here off the heels of On-Chain Heroes and DeFi Dungeons. This is Dungeons of Fortune. This is the one that's getting the most hype after these two have kind of done their raises and had On-Chain Heroes Season 1 and now this Gold Vault launch. We see Dungeons of Fortune. They are now opened up their pre-sale registration, so you can go check out Fortune Dungeons on Twitter and get involved here if you want to try to front run and get involved in another upcoming on-chain game, which is definitely going to be leaning into the DeFi narrative. So that would be the next play here. But most importantly, when DeFi Dungeons is fully live, I'll give a tutorial how I'm going to navigate it because it's a short-term play. Like if you are going to think that you can just stack your money here and make money for the rest of the market, that's not going to be the case. So I will go over what my strategy is inside of this ecosystem when this goes live, because I did pledge some money. I got some tokens from the Gold Vault from the launch they did on Meteora. So we'll see what happens going forward here in this ecosystem. And like I said, I'll give you a walkthrough of how I'm maximizing my yield in this ecosystem. And then a little bit more gaming news. And then I'll talk about the other tokens that I'm looking to accumulate. We see Zai, and I know a lot of people here got involved with the Zai Tiny Sentry keys. They're basically like the nodes of their ecosystem, round 2, and they just had their first snapshot for an airdrop. So there are instructions here down below to be able to claim your airdrop in this tweet. So you can see here that this will be the first airdrop going out to the Tiny Sentry key holders. Sentry keys were like $40. I think these are going to ROI very nicely. So if you participated in the tiny Sentry key sale, the first snapshot for airdrop has been announced, and we can see here on 𝗪𝗂𝘀𝘀, which is a game inside of the 𝗧 ecosystem, there is instructions here on how this airdrop will play out. We also saw the 𝗧 ecosystem launch 𝗪𝗔𝗕. So 𝗪𝗔𝗕 is kind of like their on-chain reward system for actual Steam games. So you can actually connect your Steam account here, be able to earn rewards straight up from your just gaming participation across the board, which really, I'm going to use the word, decentralizes or unmonopolizes the side of, oh, I have to choose one on-chain game here to be able to make money or else I'm not going to be able to make money. Well, 𝗪𝗔𝗕 from XAI or 𝗧 is actually really disrupting that model, and you can actually come in here, earn points across your Steam account for the things that you're playing, the trophies or the achievements that you earn. You can enter contests, play games, get achievements, and earn points. So this is basically turning every game into a Web3 game with reward mechanisms. So bullish updates there in the 𝗧 ecosystem, and then another bullish update in the immutable ecosystem, because we saw Raven Quest here, and like you see, this is built on the immutable ZK EVM. We see Treeverse, which is also built on immutable, is now available on the iOS App Store. Like I said, I'm going to check this out this weekend. I have some more time over the weekend, a little, less hectic with the market and just content and trying to build out with Nexus and getting trading live over here. But I'm going to jump into Treeverse here this weekend and see exactly what all the hype is about. But just looking at the altcoin market here, like I said, there's really only a couple of sectors I'd be DCAing into. I think Avalanche at $18, that's a phenomenal DCA. I would definitely be willing to put 10, 15%, a piece of 10 or 15% of my stable coins into a couple of projects right now. One of them would have 100% be Avalanche. I love 𝗏 at these prices, $244. This was trading at over $400 whenever it got announced on Coinbase. Now it's taken a 41% dip. If I'm choosing one AI play in this market, it's absolutely 𝗏 at these prices. And then moving down the ladder here, I think no-brainer, Superverse. Superverse just continues to add more and more partners. And whenever I'm getting involved with gaming tokens now, and I've preached this for a long time, but you'll see it moving forward, I will participate in stuff like DeFi dungeons or dungeons of fortune or on-chain heroes, or I will be degenning the assets and off the grid and inside of these ecosystems. However, I don't know that I'm going to be buying a lot of these assets in an effort to profit off the assets themselves, more so profiting off of participation inside the ecosystem. Whereas my overall investment thesis has firmly shifted into, I only want exposure into ecosystems, stuff like Beam, Prime, Ronin, Superverse, Avalanche, looking down the ladder. You could even look at Wilder World. They have multiple games in their ecosystem. I still love Zentry. I think Zentry at 80 million is a crazy low price to be able to DCA into what I consider to be a top ecosystem, partnered up with Ronin. Their Ragnarok IPs over there, they just bridge their token over to Ronin as well. A lot of good stuff going on underneath that ecosystem. But for now, that's about everything I'm willing to DCA at this point. I want ecosystems. I want projects with blockchains that operate multiple games, stuff like Immutable, Beam, Ronin, Avalanche, whatever the case is. Or I want ecosystems or studios that have a numerous amount of games under them. Stuff like 𝗧, Superverse, stuff like Wilder World, Echelon Prime. These all have numerous games inside their ecosystem, so you're not just betting on one product. It's like going down the ladder here. It's very hard to say, oh, Pixelmon's going to be the winner of the cycle, or Crown, or any of these games. You're shooting dice at that point in time. I'd rather bet on the ecosystems that these games are building with, and that's my thesis moving forward. And then I do love 𝗏 at these prices. I just think 𝗏 is dirt cheap at $244, just compared off of where it was after their Coinbase listing before the market went to crap over the last couple of weeks. So that's what I'm looking at in this market right now, guys. I know my thesis on gaming hasn't really changed, but I think these time periods is where it builds conviction that when the the market ramps back up and we see the real products go on chain, like Off the Grid, like Raven Quest, MapleStory, which are three of my top games that I think could lead us into a true resurgence and true altcoin gaming bull market. When those things go live in the correct market, it's going to be these types of successes in the bear market that are leaving clues. Like we see $100 million plus in interest in certain on-chain games that are most likely going to be Ponzi's. Like these are Ponzi games at the end of the day. They're here for short-term dopamine, get in, get out. Early incumbents are going to make more than the late incumbents, but that's fine. In this type of a market, that is what people are leaning into because meme coins are dead. There's no on-chain casino right now. This is the on-chain casino. So we're going to lean into this while the market is like this. But this is showing you liquidity has not dried up in the gaming space. And I'm firmly confident when the right products launch, we're going to see an overall altcoin gaming bounce, probably like we haven't seen since 2021, because it's long overdue. The last time we saw the gaming sector run was in February of 2024, 13 months ago. So this is 13 months of pent up just red dips, bad sentiment, a lot of games that have folded, but I think we're going to make out very well once this narrative does turn around. So guys, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel for more. Next week, I'm going to be out with a lot more videos. We're going to give tutorials across ecosystems. We're going to be talking about the market. We're going to be talking about different narratives, coins that I'm still convicted into, everything that you need to know in this time period to ramp up for when the full-blown bull does kick back into effect. So guys, like and subscribe. I'll see y'all on the next one. As always, play well, my friends, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.